Live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. This is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you very much for joining us. Today, for this segment, we are talking about the Towns Ciderhouse 15th anniversary harvest party taking place down there in Corvallis. An amazing celebration of really the powerhouse that Towns has become in the cider world. And we got to speak to head cider maker Dave Takush. So let's jump right into it. Dave, thank you for having time to talk to us today. I'm excited to go into this, talk about, of course, the 15th annual harvest party coming up on Saturday from Towns Ciderhouse. And I think that's where I kind of wanted to start. I mean, you being the head cider maker, which is an awesome title, by the way. I mean, that's got to be pretty cool to be on a business card. So Towns, I think a lot of people are very familiar with Towns and, the great drinks that you make, but the history is something I'm always interested in. And I was wondering if you could maybe give us just a little bit of that backstory.
Yeah. Here, let me turn you up just a bit. Okay, so the little bit of the backstory, you got to go all the way back to 2010. And my partners, Aaron Sarnoff-Wood and Lee Larson, they had this kind of idea, about craft cider. They were both kind of unhappy with their career choices. And they said, there's all this craft beer here in the Willamette Valley, Oregon, Craft Beer Central, and then look at all the artisan wine that's around. How come no one's doing real craft cider, And Aaron and Lee and I have a history that go way back to when we were kids. We all grew up in the same area, and in college we were homebrew buddies together. And they kind of had this idea, what about craft cider, And the three of us had all found craft cider in other countries when we traveled abroad, to France, England, of course, and then actually northern Spain. There's a huge craft cider a history and culture there. And we had all traveled to these places, experienced this thriving craft cider, historical culture. And we kind of came back to Oregon and we said, there's a place for this. So Lee and Aaron approached me. I was coming out of the food science department at Oregon State University. I'd worked in the wine industry, came out of the craft beer industry as well. I kind of had my foot in both places. And, the three of us ganged together. And we started out with a 900 square foot garage. Just a couple 200-gallon fermentation tanks and some dreams, And here we are 15 years later. Who would have thought making, craft cider 24/7. We are now the number one largest craft cidery in the nation. We're actually the second largest cidery, period. And we're just, happy to be here.
I mean, that's amazing. Yeah, going from a garage, some college buddies basically deciding to do this and then to have this blow up like this. I mean, it's obviously because of the quality and what you've all done. One question I have that I feel like a lot of people are always asking is, where does the name Towns come from?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when we first started out, actually, Aaron was living down in Eugene. He's a Duck guy. He's a U of O grad. And Lee and I came out of Oregon State University. We were living in Corvallis. And, so kind of obvious to us, just the two towns, the two mainstays of the Mid-Willamette Valley. And, so our first sales were down at the natural food store down in Eugene and at some of the local bars up here in Corvallis. And it just took off, As we've been around for about 15 years now and expanded more regionally, to California and Idaho and Minnesota and Chicago, we've kind of evolved that the two towns are, our home place and wherever you are drinking our cider. And, it's just, it's a really special thing to share a craft with people and kind of bring something back from history. A lot of people don't know that, hard cider before Prohibition was the #1 drink in America. Everyone drank it, everyone made it. It was a part of subsistence farming, and had a lot of historical ties to England and the colonists that came over. And Prohibition really killed the craft cider industry here in the United States. And so you have to fast forward to, when Prohibition was repealed. Wow, it's so easy to get grain back in the ground. A lot of beer culture was being brought to the United States from Eastern Europe, and hard cider was kind of lost to time. Those hard cider orchards that were cut down and destroyed during Prohibition, it takes a long time to reestablish them. And so you come to more modern times, 2010. No one was really making a quality craft cider with intention, with purpose. And so that's what we set out to do, is bring craft cider back to the people. Yeah.
I love that, bringing something back that was so popular and then reintroducing it to everyone, which clearly, turns out there was a palate for this, that worked.
Yeah.
I'm curious from your standpoint too, being here in mid-Willamette Valley, what is it about this region in particular that makes it such a great place for creating your ciders?
Oh man, that's a great question. So up in central Washington, that's where about 2/3 of the nation's apples are grown. It's one of the largest apple growing regions in the world, actually. And it's just a stone's throw away up there in Washington. Here in the Mid-Willamette Valley, we've got a lot of specialty orchards, heritage antique orchards with a lot of unique varieties. Just in general, the Pacific Northwest is a great apple growing region. We can actually get a higher sugar contents than you typically see in Western France and England. So it's a really great place for apples. But the other thing is that it's a really great place for agriculture in general. Up in Linden, Washington, you've got like this vast region of raspberry growing. Here in the Willamette Valley, I mean, just outside of our door out here is one of the biggest organic blueberry fields, in the nation. And there are so many blueberries and Marion blackberries down here in Oregon as well, which is a very special variety of blackberry. So we've got cane fruit, we've got pears down in Southern Oregon, we've got apples up in Washington. I mean, everything you could possibly want. Cherries, plums, peaches, it's all here. And we can really incorporate that into our development when we talk about innovating and kind of going beyond just the apple.
I love that innovation aspect. I mean, utilizing all of those amazing things that are grown here. Is there anything that is there anything you haven't tried that you want to try?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're always looking for the next big thing. Whenever someone talks about some sort of weird berry that no one's heard of, like haskap or cloudberries, my ears just perk up and I go, I wonder if we could use that in cider. So I think haskap is the one that has been on my to-do list. It's actually the fruit of a honeysuckle, and they grow them a lot in Japan. And, there's actually this growing cider culture in Japan too. Shout out to Son of the Smith out there. Those are our buddies making cider in Nagano. And, it's just this really cool global community. And we're just happy to be part of it.
I love that. Do you just go out to when you're traveling around, go to local farmers markets and just see what kind of fruit they might have available?
Oh, yeah. I mean, really, I'm trying to sniff out the best apple varieties. I mean, that's really my focus. There are, most people don't know this, but, there's probably, well over 7,500 apple varieties on catalog. And those are varieties that have been named and cataloged. That is not by any means an extensive list of all of them that exist. In fact, there are so many that it's hard to actually make a comprehensive list, but suffice it to say, there's well over 8,000 varieties that exist out there. And every year there's a chance for new varieties to arrive. It's the way apples are, they propagate themselves. They must be pollinated or fertilized by a different variety of tree in order to set fruit. So every apple seed that you ever plant will always be a new variety. And what it takes is somebody deciding that variety is worth keeping around and propagating through grafting in order to, make it like a popularized or known variety. So some of the varieties that we know and love today, things like the Granny Smith apple, right? That was found growing on Mrs. Smith's farm in the 1800s in Australia, of all places.
It was an actual Granny Smith.
Yeah, there's a Granny Smith. That was her name. And she found this apple that was just growing as a chance seedling, as a wild apple. And she thought, wow, this makes some really excellent pie. I'm going to keep it around. I'm going to graft it into my orchard. And before you know it, 100 years later, it's like one of the up and coming apples in America. And every apple variety starts that way, as this chance seedling that someone thinks, boy, this is worth keeping around. So I'm always on the hunt for like the next, coolest apple. We just had a new variety released in Washington called Cosmic Crisp, and we were so thrilled to see that come about. I mean, that was it came around as a intentional breeding program at WSU. And so that was done with purpose, but at the same time, right, they had to have all these trials, and they found the best of the best of the best. And they said, here's an apple worth, keeping around. So when that hit the market in 2019, we jumped on it because it's got this high acid, high sugar content, great for cider making. But really the key is that flavor profile, like that depth or intensity of flavor that comes through in the fermentation. Like we couldn't be more thrilled.
I will say it is delicious. I've had many a Cosmic Crisp, and also the name is amazing too. I mean, that's some pretty good marketing on top of it. I know that's not the most important thing, but it helps.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, no, that apple, it's so pretty. It's big, it's round, it's red, but it's got all of these white, they're called, the technical term is lenticels, and that's the white little dots on the skin. And so that gives it the cosmic name, like kind of like the Milky Way galaxy, you see all these little star-like dots on this deep red background on the apple. And, it stays crisp and hard. The flavor just gets better the longer you keep it around. And the other cool thing is that it doesn't brown. So when you cut into it, like it just naturally doesn't have the enzymes that cause that browning. So you can put it in a fruit salad and it will just stay nice and like, a nice color without browning. And the fun thing is that translates into the cider making process. So actually, when we make cider out of Cosmic Crisp, it usually comes out more of a platinum color as opposed to like that gold yellow we're used to,
Interesting. I love all the science behind this too. Just how that all works and, in creating these things.
More than you ever probably wanted to know about apples, but that's why we're here.
That could be a whole other podcast we can do about that part. Well, let's talk about, the big event here on Saturday, the harvest party. And I know there's an origin story to that too, because this is the 15th annual one. Like, how did that all get going?
Oh, yeah. So, once we, kind of got established and we, our first goal was like, we got to make cider and get it out the door. And then we found that we just had all this support from the local community. Mostly I would say it was like the adventurous craft beer drinker. Craft beer people, they're not really afraid of anything. They're willing to try the next new thing, the crazier, the better, right? And so when we came out with hard cider, we were wondering, like, what is the reception going to be like? And we just found this overwhelming support from our community, from craft beer drinkers in general. And the harvest party, it came about as a way to say thank you to the people who helped us get going. Big shout out to Ninkazi. They were just like wonderful to us. The local natural food stores, like, carrying our product, the local bars who are willing to put us on tap, give us a chance, And so this harvest party, every year we pick a nonprofit as the beneficiary. And so we invite everyone. It's kind of like an open house, right? We say, come in, see how much we've grown, check out the equipment, check out all these fun things, that are harvest oriented. We've got actually some apple talks going on where we're going to talk about the history and origins of apples starting from about 10,000 years ago to present day. So everything you could want to know about apples, we're going to talk about them. We're going to have fresh raw cider being pressed so people can try like fresh pressed, like antique cider. We've got every single hard cider on tap that we've made through the year. So that's usually like 50 something ciders being poured at once. And we do all of this with music and live music. We've got food trucks and everything, like as a way to say thank you, and all the proceeds go to the nonprofit, and each year it's a new one. And, it's just like a way to say thanks. And, we're just happy to be here.
I love that. So many aspects of that. I mean, number one, it sounds like a fun party, and I want to go to the apple history lessons now that you've been talking about that. I'm fascinated by that, but also just this idea of how much community is involved, because you mentioned bringing in the people, who purchase your product, who are fans, but also other businesses too that you've worked with. And, sometimes you could say like, okay, well, Ninkasi, that must be a rival, but sounds like, you guys work together. And it seems like that's a common theme within the brewing, world, whether it's beer or cider or whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of collaboration. We're all in this together, and I think the thing that really links all of us in this industry is that we're also passionate about what we do. That the reason anybody in this industry gets into it is because they love hard cider, they love craft beer. They appreciate the craftsmanship, the skill that goes into it, and the fact that like we're so lucky to have this culture here in the Pacific Northwest where like excellent beer, craft cider, artisan wine, it is a given, it is expected. And like that doesn't exist everywhere in the US, it doesn't exist everywhere in the world. And so we're pretty lucky here in the Northwest to have it.
I do have to say, anytime I travel, I sometimes take it for granted how much we have here, how much amazing things.
Yeah.
And then I come back, I'm like, oh, we've got it good. We've got it pretty good here. And that includes, two towns. And of course, this event that people can go to and check out. And a lot of things happening there, as you mentioned, music and all the different ciders. And I had a question for maybe there's somebody out there who's very new to cider or hasn't tried one out yet. So say they come to this event, to the harvest party, what would you say is the best entry level cider for them to try?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So every year we do an anniversary cider, and it's made with local heirloom apples. It's different every year, and I think that it's like the best expression of kind of our industry. It's made with hand-picked local apples from just 30 miles away. In fact, some of the apples that went into this year's anniversary cider are just from like a quarter mile that way, or my dad's house, which is 7 miles in the other direction, and so it comes from these small orchards, and it's a really good cider to kind of showcase like the epitome of like craft cider and these antique varieties that we use. So I would say if you can get your hands on some of the anniversary cider, whether it's the 15th anniversary from this year or even last year's anniversary cider, the 14th, like we'll have that on tap too. And it's just, they're just wonderful, expressive, unique craft ciders. For people who are more into like the fruit ciders, we've got a brand new one called the Guava Get Down, and it's a Pacific Northwest apple blend, and it's fermented with a pink guava puree, and it's super tropical and super fun, and that's always like a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm picturing having some of those in the sun somewhere, sitting on a porch. That's
it's beach vibes for sure.
Yeah, definitely has that. Well, that's awesome. And again, these are things that people can go out there here for this party. And just to give everybody those details, can you let them know when, where, and how people can come and join in?
Yeah, so the harvest party, it happens at our actual production facility. Like I said, it's kind of like an open house. We've got two buildings, and we've got this huge field in between with tents and a food truck area. So you just go online, twotownsciderhouse.com, click the harvest party link. You can pre-buy tickets, and then it gives you all the instructions for parking. There's limited parking here. There's a big field, but there's also a lot of shuttles that go into downtown Corvallis. So people can like meet up at the local bar at one of our awesome businesses downtown and then jump on a shuttle. There's these little stops everywhere. You can get the map online and it'll take you right to the party, drop you off at the front gate, and you can walk in and, make sure you come hungry. There's tons of like awesome food trucks and live music all day. It's going to be awesome.
That's a party. I mean, it's in the name, but I mean, that is a party. And I love the idea of a shuttle bus too. I mean, that's just perfect.
Yeah.
So adding that on there. Well, this is so cool, that you're having this coming up here for people to go try this out. And, I want to say thank you for joining us just to talk about all of this and all that you do. And it's really is, at the end of the day, I think it's something that's a point of pride, I think, for a lot of people in Oregon and the Northwest to have people like Two Towns Ciderhouse, here, like local, but then being all over the world at the same time. And
again, that's why we hold this celebration, is just to say thank you to all the people who supported us. And when we started in 2010, there wasn't a hard cider industry in Oregon or the Pacific Northwest. It wasn't even a thing, right? And we wouldn't be here without the help of all the people who supported us, all the people who actually drink our cider. So this is for them. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Fox 12 Now. Really excited for it. There we go. Huge thank you to Dave for joining us to talk about that. And as I mentioned, we do cover a lot of topics here on Fox 12 Now. You can check out all of those on the Fox 12 Oregon apps. I recommend watching that way because you can watch live and after the fact and everything else that we do here at the station. But however you found us, thanks for doing so. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.